I made a video a while ago called single point versus double point slings, and it was actually one of our better viewed videos. And on the list for a long time has kind of been more of a how-to focused video with the 2-point sling. Now in that video, I made no secret that my preference is the 2-point sling versus the single point sling. And a lot of people made comments arguing one way versus the other. And there's no doubt the single point sling is incredibly simple. And that is where that sling system shines. You simply put it over your head, stick an arm through it, and then the gun just basically hangs down. Now, some of the cons were that you don't have as much retention, you can't use it as support. And some people said like, well, actually, if you do this and tie it up in a weird knot and single it, there's maybe some hacks, but it's definitely not intuitive and it's not as easily as with the 2-point sling. That's what I wanted to start to talk about today. My name is Dave Tim from Guns and Tactics. Thank you guys very much for spending a few minutes checking out this video, where I'm going to teach you a little bit of some of the lessons that I've learned with a 2-point sling. Now, first things first, I'll put some links in the description on where you can get a quality 2-point sling, as well as the QD point, but you also do have to have your rifle set up. Obviously, we have a QD point in the back of the stock here, which is pretty much what most stocks are coming with, so that's kind of mandatory. And then we have a QD socket somewhere on the handguard. So for me, I have it right up here, basically just forward of the magwell. Now, truth be told, I also wouldn't mind having a second one up closer to the muzzle for some supported position. Some of my rifles have that. This particular one that I grabbed does not. Some rails have different QD sockets in different locations, and I also prefer that. So anytime I see a QD socket in the back and the front of the rail, that's not a bad thing. Now, one other spot that people often forget about that I add to every one of my rifles is the receiver plate right here. I add a QD socket right there on pretty much all of my working rifles. Now, does every rifle have it? No, but anything that would be a duty rifle, patrol rifle, defense rifle, whatever, does, because it gives me more single point like performance out of a 2-point sling. Now, here's the thing. These QD sockets, QD stands for quick detach, and that's the beauty of it. A lot of people think once you have your sling set up, that's the way it has to stay, and that's not true. So the reality is I can have the sling like in a traditional 2-point setup where it hangs over my shoulder, goes around my back, and then comes around under, and now I have it here. And I generally like to have mine a little loose because I'll demo some techniques here in a little bit where I have some gear on, but I want the rifle to hang and allow me the ability to come up, move around, do whatever. Now, if I need to tighten it up, this particular one has a tensioning strap, so I can easily pull that and really have the sling cinch up against my body. Maybe I needed to do something, whatever. I could transition it behind me to do some work, whatever it might be. I like the ability of that. Some people will argue that it doesn't have, as much mobility, so I can switch shoulders. But I would challenge you with this. How realistic are you switching shoulders? Is switching shoulders something that we actually see in officer-involved shootings or combatant situations or self-defense situations? The reality is, I just don't think it's realistic that seeing people switch shoulders, which is what a common argument for the single point sling is. But hey, if that works for you, if that's something that you train in, go right ahead, rock on. Now here's a cool part, is that if I want to have that mobility, have that simplicity, all I do is I take this QD socket off and I put it back here. Now once the QD socket is back here, look, it hangs basically just like a single point sling. If I needed to switch shoulders, I certainly could, even though it's, in my opinion, not very realistic, okay? I don't see a ton of people doing this, but hey, if that's what you want to do, it's incredibly simple to do so with that sling setup, with that QD socket back there. So there might be a situation where I do want that mobility and I like having the QD socket for those specific purposes. So that's great. It gives you another option. Now, I still generally will keep the QD socket right up here for a variety of reasons. Number one, it gives me access to come up. I can fire from a high ready, from a low ready, or from just a rest position. But I can also start to use the sling for more support and things like that. Now, one argument people make against the double point sling is, oh, it tangles up on gear, it gets in the way. So I'm gonna throw on some gear, I'll be right back. Typical gear for me consisted of a duty belt, some sort of body armor. So now I'm just wearing my Defense Mechanisms plate carrier. I do have a video on that. You can check out the card, but these are awesome plate carriers if you're looking for good quality gear. But anyways, setup on the rifle is exactly the same. Sling will go over my head, reaction arm goes through the sling, and now again, the sling goes around my back, around my gear, and back to the rifle, and I can simply have the rifle hang just like so if I was at a rest, or maybe, you know, I'm waiting for, you know, whatever the situation may be. Now again, if I needed to, at a low ready, I can come up. From a high ready, everything is just fine. And if I needed to tighten it up, I certainly could. Now that's just fine. It doesn't really interfere with my gear. I can still access all of my mags. I can do, you know, basically whatever I needed to do, even with my gear on and the sling. But what's really cool with the sling is I can start to use it for support. I can start to do more with it. Let's just say I had a longer shot and I wanted to get a little bit more stable. I can tighten up my sling a little bit, and I can have my arm go inside the sling here. So I'm going to take my forearm and it's going to go in the sling like so. And then now I can come up on my vertical foregrip. And you can see the sling is wrapping around my arm here, and I have more tension here. So as I pull down with this arm, it's actually pulling on the sling, pulling around my back, and then pulling the gun more into my shoulder. So I'm going to tighten it up just a little bit, like so. Come in, come down. And now as I tighten here, I feel that tension around my back, and I feel the gun pulling into the pocket of my shoulder. So as I'm here, you know, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you can kind of see how tightening it here will pull on this rear point here and help cinch that sling right into my shoulder, and the crosshair stabilizes a lot more. Sometimes the situation is maybe you're on a perimeter, you know you're going to be somewhere for a while. Maybe you're at a match and you need to get more stable and you have a prop to use from. So this is just a typical rail that we might see in a variety of places. It could be the bed of a pickup truck. It could be, you know, whatever object, but there are a lot of things that are similar to this. Now, one of the reasons why I like having a vertical grip is because I can use that as a rest, so I can get nice and stable on that barricader platform. But now I can even use that same technique. I can take my sling, come in, and help kind of just pull everything together. So I'm grabbing the barricade here, and as I'm pulling in, it's pulling that gun into the shoulder. So I have a nice, solid, steady sight picture. Okay, now maybe I wanted to use that and I wanted to pull back a little bit as well. I could certainly do something similar. So depending on how long I'm going to be here, maybe you're planning on being here for a perimeter, maybe this is the stage of a match and you need to get more stable, I can detach the back of the sling and I can use that as a support. So I could simply wrap the sling around the object and I can then kind of pull on it. Okay, I could do something like that. I can also wrap the gun to the object, pull on this, it locks up on my vertical foregrip, and I can add a little tension, and that is super stable. So again, I'm just using the sling as basically tying it to my support object. Now, obviously the downside to having the sling tied to the object is that you are tied to the object. You can't quickly take your rifle off of here. So make sure that you're planning on being here for a while. And if you needed to protect yourself, maybe having a secondary or a partner or something like that is not a bad idea. Now, let's say our object is vertical. We could do something very similar. We could simply pull the gun against that object and we can start to wrap the sling around the post or whatever it might be. Now, some guys will take this tail and they'll wrap it around their belt. They'll clip it to their gear. They might have a carabiner just for that purpose, just to kind of add tension. And then as they scoot their body back, it kind of helps become stable. I mean, look, I don't even have a hand on the gun and it's pretty stable and solid. So again, there's some different tricks that we can do as far as using the sling as support. All that stuff aside, one of the still biggest advantages of the dual point sling is to use it to retain your rifle while you're doing other things. A lot of people liken the sling of a rifle to the holster of a handgun, and I totally agree. So there are times when I have my rifle and I simply just want to cinch it in tight and have it basically ready for what I need to, but controlled so I can maybe do something else. Maybe that's talk on the radio, it's come up with a plan or do whatever. But if there came a time where I needed to render aid or I needed to make an arrest or simply do whatever, one of the greatest things that I have with the double point sling is the ability to put it behind my back. Now, depending on your situation, you could simply throw it over your back like so and tighten up. That's certainly one option, okay? And then you can simply come around here and grab the rifle. However, another option is to take your reaction arm, come back. Now the sling is just simply hanging around my neck. I take my primary hand, I come through the sling, grab the gun, go around my back, and I'm trying to do this so I don't hit the microphone for you guys. But now the gun is behind my back and the sling is like so, muzzle is still pointed down, and I can tighten it up. And now it is nice and tight against my back. I have my front completely clear to do whatever. I could do administrative tasks, I could, you know, access stuff on my belt. I could do whatever it might be. So there's another great advantage of the double point sling. If you are looking for more of that single point sling simplicity, that is a tongue twister. And you don't want to worry about, you know, how this and that is. Simply take your arm out of the sling, so it's just simply hanging around your neck. So you have the sling, it goes over your neck, and now it is basically just hanging like a necklace. Okay, and now it is free to do whatever it is you want. You have that mobility. You can switch shoulders if you want to. Again, I don't think it's that realistic, but I have from low readies, from high readies, whatever it might be, and I have a nice simple solution to manipulate that 2-point sling in a very single like format. What do you guys think? Leave a comment down below. Are you in the 2-point sling camp, or are you still in the single point sling camp? And if you are, whatever, rock on. Do what works for you. The biggest thing is just get out with your gear and practice with it. Nothing is gonna work if you don't practice and train with your gear, whether that's 1-point or 2-point slings. Leave a comment, let me know what you think. If you guys have a question about this or anything firearms related, send us an email to the email address shown on the screen. That is theqa@gunsandtactics.com. And at the end of the month, we have a live show now where I answer your questions, plus we give away awesome prizes. I'll have links in the description where you can get some of my favorite gear. If you guys want to support the channel, the best way is through our Patreon network. You can go ahead and sign up for that, and we're going to start to have some more exclusive benefits for Patreon subscribers here shortly. If you guys like the comment, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and as promised, if you want to learn more about my single point versus double point sling video, you can check that out right here. If you want to learn more about the plate carrier I'm wearing from Defense Mechanisms, you can click the video right here. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.